Today, we are going to do something that maybe I shouldn't be doing. We've got the brand new Fender Vintera II Series 50s Strat, and I said, you know what? I've got this SE Silver Sky sitting over here. What if we compared the two? I've come up with the 5 biggest differences between these two guitars. We're gonna go through them right now. This one is more expensive. It's about $300 US more expensive, coming in at $1,150. The SE Silver Skies are $850. So you could argue maybe the Player Series Fender Strats are a better comparison. I think they're a little bit cheaper. Price-wise, you're gonna be spending more on this guitar. Does that really matter? Does it hold up? Do you actually get $300 more guitar out of this one? Well, let's keep going and find out. Difference number 2 does kind of address what I mentioned in difference number 1. Are you getting $300 more of a guitar quality-wise with the Vintera II Series versus the SE Silver Sky? My simple answer to that question is no, you're not. And the reason why I say that is that there were a few things on the Vintera II that kind of surprised me build quality wise. One of the biggest things is the 5-way switch has this really weird extra play in it. When you get to the neck position, the 5th position, it like moves past where it should when you're already at where it should stop. Very distracting. It actually made me feel like there was like, is there a secret 6th position on this guitar that I don't know about? It moves that much. So quality-wise, that's a little bit irritating to me. You know, you can get it fixed, obviously. The Silver Sky SE, there aren't any weird anomalies that are like maybe not supposed to be there. This is the 2nd or 3rd one that I've played, and they've all been pretty consistent. Yes, there are some things that could be improved on the SE Silver Sky, some things that could be replaced, certainly, and things that don't wear very well on those guitars. If you have one, you know what I mean with the bridge. But out of the box, straight from the factory, quality-wise, I have to give a leg up to the Silver Sky SE because the Vintera II, while it's really cool, that higher price point, I would have expected that some of these weird little quirks wouldn't be here in a guitar that's that expensive. So the third difference boils down to the neck, and it's really not even a fair comparison because there's 2 totally different approaches to guitar necks. This is your typical 50s kind of reissue Strat with the V and the lacquer on the maple fretboard. The SE Silver Sky is a satin, more kind of C-shaped, chunkier feeling neck. It's just completely different. Also, the frets are much larger on the SE Silver Sky. So it's interesting to me because they kind of satisfy 2 different things. They feel very different. They're comfortable in their own ways. I don't really think one is better than the other. They're just different. So if you've played a Strat, I'm sure you have, if you played a Silver Sky, even one of the core models, you're gonna know that difference that I'm talking about. I mean, visually you can see it too. The headstock angle on the SE Silver Sky, you know, is just totally different than how Fender does it. So it's really one of those things where it kind of illuminates like maybe I shouldn't even be doing this comparison between the 2 guitars, but I am. The 4th difference between these 2 guitars is probably the most important one, and that is the pickups. Really what that means is how they sound. They sound completely different. You can hear the character on this guitar is wildly different than the vintage 50s Strat vibe. This is a much more bell-like, lower output, clear tone. These pickups on the SE Silver Sky are hot. They are hot, they're thick, and to be honest with you, I have a core Silver Sky, and sometimes I like these pickups better. They do have that kind of weird advantage though. It's like when you're mixing a recording and one is louder than the other, you might gravitate toward the mix that's louder, even though it might not be better just because of the whole loudness bias thing. This is a louder guitar. You could hear it in the sample between the 2 guitars. It just, the output is just completely different from one to the other. So it's not necessarily better, but I can tell you right now, This doesn't, I mean, it does sound like a Strat, I guess, kind of, but it doesn't sound like a traditional 50s or 60s kind of Strat. And you can hear that difference even when you compare this to the core model. Two very different guitars, two very different vibes, two very different things. So much so that I think you could have both and really, you know, find uses for both of them. That's how I feel about this one too. If I had my core model up against the Vintera II, I think you'd hear a much more similar vibe between those two with the lower output pickups on the core. But these, I was really surprised when I A/B'd them, how different and how much meatier and just like aggressive this guitar is. Honestly, it makes you play differently. I felt inspired to play different things on this guitar than I did on this guitar. I tried to match them up for this video, but off camera, I definitely noticed my playing was different here than there. Definitely to the, you know, to credit to the neck too. I play a little bit differently on one neck versus the other, but really overall, the biggest thing is the sound on this guitar is just a more aggressive feel than the vintage 50s Fender kind of thing. The fifth and final big difference between these two guitars is pretty obvious. It's the look. They're very different looking guitars. Yes, one was inspired by the other. We always hear that about the Silver Skies. However, when you have them right next to each other, you can see that some pretty significant differences in the shapes of the body, the shape of the headstock, obviously, the shape of the pickguard. Inspired, but different. But the biggest thing for me is the color palette choices. When you go with a Fender, you're gonna have some newer colors if you're not in like a 50s reissue collection like this is. But with the 50s Vintera II Series, you get all of the colors that were kind of popular and iconic at that time. This one being the two-tone Sunburst, which I love. It was my first love when it came to guitars, was literally this guitar scheme right here, not the Vintera II, obviously, because it just came out, but this idea of a Strat. With the SE Silver Sky, you're getting a lot of kind of out there colors. That's their MO with those things. You have to like that. If you're a more traditional person when it comes to the aesthetics that you like with a guitar, obviously the Vintera II is gonna probably do it for you versus the Silver Sky. You're gonna look at it as something that's super futuristic and weird and all these crazy colors that John Mayer and PRS put together. But, you know, at the time that these came out, I have a feeling, you know, some of these colors are probably considered pretty crazy as well. So, I mean, maybe it's carrying the torch in that way, but the difference is stark. You're gonna be kind of in one camp or the other, usually. I don't know that I would like a Strat with the PRS colors, and I don't know that I would like a Silver Sky with the traditional Fender colors. They kind of just fit with their respective body shapes and guitars. So, you know, is one better than the other? I don't know. I want both, to be honest. I want both. I want a classic Strat, and I want the newfangled Silver Sky, because they're both cool when it comes to how they look. So those are the 5 biggest differences in my mind between the Fender Vintera II Strat and the SE Silver Sky. Is this a good comparison? I think you could argue either way. I do think, though, that it's interesting that a guitar that is $300 less kind of hangs with this new series. I tend to feel like this one might be a little bit overpriced. That's just my opinion. You let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.